Welcome to A Moment of Zen. Time to sit back and relax as model, actress, mentor, and supermom Zen Sams takes you on a sexy and wild ride, covering the latest in film, fashion, pop culture, cryptocurrency, fintech, cannabis, and entertainment from the millennial mom's perspective. Here's your host, Zen Sams.
Hello, my beautiful tri-state area. Welcome to our 151st episode. It's always such a pleasure to spend my time with you on the airwaves. Thank you for listening and interacting with me on social media. That truly does make it all worthwhile. Please make sure to follow us at Zen Sams. That's Zen with an X, not a Z. And also remember that all episodes of A Moment of Zen stream 24/7 on Kathy Ireland's Your Home TV. And of course, you can always find us on our YouTube channel at Zen Sams. In our Hydration with Heart segment, brought to you by Once Upon a Coconut, we're featuring Kendall Toole. She's an influencer, a Peloton instructor, and a mental health advocate. She's going to be joined by heavy metal music artist Tommy Vext and Emily Hayden, who's a life coach, a motivational speaker, and an athlete. We're on the red carpet chatting about the benefits of coconut water, social activism, and why Once Upon a Coconut has become so incredibly popular. In our Discover Your Potential segment, brought to you by Body Align, we're joined by our contributor, podcaster, and author, Dan Gilman. He's joined by the very talented Guy Stanley Philoche. He's a Haitian-born artist and painter based right here in New York City. He's attracted international attention and garnered a really strong following, and he's collected by everyone from George Clooney, Thurman, and Tommy Hilfiger. They join me today to chat about art, inspiration, and the powerful messages he communicates through his work. In our Going Deep segment, brought to you by CO2 Lift, we're featuring Dr. Doris Day, a trend-setting leading dermatologist in New York City's cosmetic dermatology field. Her New York City practice provides skin treatments for all people of all ages. She specializes in laser, cosmetic, and surgical dermatology. She's also a clinical professor at NYU Langone. Today, she joins me to chat how exosomes are redefining skincare, how carbon dioxide therapy can promote hair rejuvenation, and the latest applications and use cases of carboxytherapy. In our Scandals segment, brought to you by Your Home TV and Kathy Ireland Worldwide, we're featuring Imran Ansari, partner at Idala Bertuna Kamins, otherwise known as ABK Law right here in New York City. We're chatting all about Alec Baldwin and Sofia Vergara and the lawsuits that surround them on their most recent film sets. Stay tuned for Discover Your Potential, joined by the talented Guy Stanley Philoche and Dan Gilman. We're going to find out how he ended up being collected by everyone from George Clooney, Thurman, to Tommy Hilfiger. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeart Radio. We'll be right back after this.
A Moment of Zen is brought to you by Your Home TV.
Hi, this is Kathy Ireland here on A Moment of Zen, brought to you by Your Home TV. We've developed an all-inclusive subscription-free network that you're going to love, whether it's financial freedom, fashion, beauty, health and wellness, wonderful weddings, travel and culture, cooking, entertainment, and short-form documentaries, programming for everyone. Classic films and new shows, including Kathy Ireland Presents American Dreams. We've developed this network just for you. Please check out yourhometv.com.
Tune in to A Moment of Zen, Saturday nights from 9 to 10 p.m. on WOR, the voice of New York, iHeart Radio. A Moment of Zen is sponsored by Body Align. Are you ready for a long winter's nap? Over 183 million adults have trouble sleeping at least once a week. That's why Body Align designed a wearable patch that helps you fall asleep faster, wake up feeling refreshed, and comes with a money-back guarantee. Try the Sweet Dreams patch today and get a buy one, get one free pack with the promo code DYP. Visit bodyalign.com and enter DYP at checkout, because discovering your potential starts with a great night's sleep. That's bodyalign.com.
Welcome back, beautiful tri-state area. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeart Radio. I'm your host, Zen Sams. Up next in our Discover Your Potential segment, brought to you by Body Align, we're joined by our regular contributor and podcaster, Dan Gilman, joined by the very talented Guy Stanley Philoche. He's a Haitian-born artist and painter. He immigrated to Connecticut when he was just 3 and turned to art as his calling. He struck out on his own path, first attending an arts college and then Yale. He's now based right here in New York City and has attracted international attention and garnered a strong following. He's collected by everyone from George Clooney, Thurman and Tommy Hilfiger to Deutsche Bank, Merrill Lynch, and Barclay Investments. That's just to name a few. They join me today to chat about art, inspiration, and the powerful messages he communicates through his work and love of New York City. Welcoming now to the show are my awesome friends. Welcome, superstars.
Oh, wow. Thank you. What intro. Wow.
Thank you
Thanks
for having
me, guys. Yeah.
So I would like to find out, my dear, how you ended up being collected by everyone from George Clooney, Thurman, and Tommy Hilfiger, and then I'll go directly into Q&A. But how do you cross paths with these people?
God, it was a long journey. I have good dealers, and at the same time, it's New York. Being at the right place at the right time. And just happened to see the work and fell in love with the work.
But it wouldn't have happened if you didn't live right here in New York City.
Well, yeah, let's be honest. New York is the capital of the art world, so everything happens here in New York for the art world. Yeah, so yeah, for sure.
Okay, now as the middle child of three boys, coming from a family of sports enthusiasts, your passion clearly laid elsewhere. And while still remaining close to your Haitian roots, you were the only son to go against your culture's tradition of the entire family living together by going out on your own path. Can you share a little bit about your background and what led you to pursue a career in art?
Yeah, well, to answer that question, you need to understand how I grew up, right? I came over when I was a kid. I didn't speak the language. I was this weird, awkward kid in a new country. And when you have Caribbean parents, especially Haitian parents, I was supposed to be a doctor, a lawyer, an accountant, some type of government job with a pension. I'm not supposed to be talking to you right now. I'm supposed to be in front of a computer right now, punching numbers. But no, I chose to pursue art because it was just one of those things that art chose me, you know? So being this weird, awkward kid, I come to the US. I'm weird, I'm awkward, I don't speak the language. And I just found my place in the world through art, And when I told my parents that I wanted to go art school, my mom said, no, I scrub enough twat so you don't have to. You are way too smart. We're not paying for that. It's either go to university or go to art school. And I looked at them. I gave them a big hug, a big kiss after I graduated high school. And I just took off, left home. I was 17 years old and never looked back.
Fascinating. I know Dan has some questions for you. He's very eager to jump in here.
Well, I was just on that note. Who were your biggest influences growing up, and how did they shape your approach to art?
My biggest influences growing up, really, believe it or not, I'm gonna have to say my parents. We didn't grow up with art. We didn't have art hanging on the walls. And the way I'm talking about, the way they influenced me a little bit is for them not paying me for go to art school. So when they said, listen, we're not paying for you to go to art school, that put in roots for me and the determination for me to stay focused and to say, you know what? I understand why you chose not to do this. So therefore, I'm going to prove you guys wrong. So I just moved, I was just so focused, so dedicated, and kept my eye on the prize.
I can see that being a great motivator to prove your parents wrong. We've all been there. But influences and inspiration are key points for artists like yourself. In fact, in the 2017 US Survey of Public Participation in the Arts, 61% of participants who created visual artworks reported doing so because they felt, quote unquote, creative or creatively inspired. And as you know better than anyone else, artists can find inspiration to create in all aspects of life, whether that's nature, personal experiences, or even learning new techniques in that chosen medium. How do you choose the themes for your artworks, and what messages do you aim to convey through them?
So that's a really good question. As as an artist, I work in series. And every few years I start a new series. 2 years ago I had a series called New York, I Still Love You, and that was based on the pandemic. After things started to open up in the city, everyone was fleeing the city. Everyone kept saying New York is dead, New York is dead. So I started a series where I was like, no, New York is not dead. Let me show you guys why, and let me remind you guys why New York isn't dead. So I did a group of like everyday New York subjects that remind people about New York City. Now I'm doing a new series called Give Us Our Flowers. That series is really dear to my heart because last year I lost a really dear friend of mine who just wasn't a friend. He was also one of my collectors and also my lawyer who negotiated all my contracts and everything like that. And this particular situation really, really hit home and really hit me hard because, like I said, he wasn't just a dear friend, but
A mentor.
yeah, it's just talking about it's still just a little shocking to because 2 days before he passed away he was in my studio, we're signing contracts and everything, and then 3 days later I find out that he passed away. And I dealt with grief before, but this really hit hard. So I go to his funeral and I see tons of people there, and everyone kept saying the same thing. I wish I had told him how great of a lawyer he was, how he was a great colleague, he was a good friend, he was a great dad, but no one got that chance to tell them that. So, and again, traditional therapy just wasn't working for me at the time. So I was just in my studio and I just kept drawing his portrait over and over. And then one day I just put little flowers. And when I looked at it, I was like, wow, I think I have something here. And so I started this whole new series called Give Us Our Flowers. And Give Us Our Flowers is about honoring us while we're still alive. Too often we only honor people when they're gone, but I wanted to honor us while we're still alive.
That's beautiful. You just touched
Just-
me.
Oh, well, thank you. The portraits are beautiful. They're portraits of everyday people. And also too, and I chose painting Black and brown people because too often the media only looked at us as either criminals or entertainers. We're more than that, we're doctors, we're lawyers, we're educators, and so that's why I chose to paint everyday people that look like me, because going to museums, you don't see us hanging on these walls.
No.
Now, listen, the life of an artist is certainly not always an easy one. You just painted that reality for yourself in terms of transitioning from a family that did not believe in your vision to finding family and mentorship in a friend that you recently lost. And artists and creatives are so frequently misunderstood by the public and those around them and their very own family. In fact, I heard that when you first told your parents you got into an art school, separate of the fact that you told them you wanted to pursue this, they told you that they loved you, but you're just too smart to waste your time on brain to waste your brain on painting. In fact, it's your painting that has earned you the income to this date that it has, right? So how wrong were they? But you stayed true to yourself and continued on full steam ahead and knew that this is what you wanted to do. And throughout your career, if you could look back, what has been the most challenging aspect of discovering your potential and how have you addressed it?
Well, first of all, they choosing not to support me financially in the art world and not helping me pay for school was the best thing that ever happened. To this day, my dad apologized. He said, out of all my boys, I rode you the hardest. But I just want to say sorry. It's like, no, don't apologize, because that was the best decision you ever made, because it just made me so focused and everything like that. And also too, let's be honest, I wouldn't recommend being an artist to my worst enemies. You know what I mean? It's just one of those things where it's hard work, it's sacrifice. But at the end of the day, you have to look at yourself in the mirror and ask yourself, what are you willing to sacrifice? Because it's a lot of sacrifice, and I chose to make these types of sacrifices, and I just kept staying focused, kept my eye on the prize. And 20 years later, yeah, I have this amazing career and everything like that. But I chose to make these sacrifices. I chose to invest in myself. That's the most important thing too. But also too, I'm a dreamer. I dream big. And I just never stopped dreaming. I think living in New York City is one of those places where dreams do come true. And what I would love to tell like up and coming artists, if a kid from Haiti who came here with nothing, didn't speak the language, moved to New York City, could do it, anyone can do it. You just got to dream big. And I think too many people stop dreaming big.
You've been active in supporting other artists and in the community, and especially during challenging times.
Yeah.
Can you tell us more about your initiative to buy art from struggling artists during the pandemic?
So I have a philosophy that I've always lived by. I love art, and every time I sell a painting, I buy a painting. Some people buy lottery tickets, some people buy cars, some people buy watches. I buy art. So when the pandemic happened, I just got off of a big sold out show in New York City, and I was super excited, and I was going to do something nice for myself, but I was going to buy this really nice watch. But I noticed that more and more of my friends were calling me. People were getting nervous. And listen, I'm a New Yorker by heart. I've been here for September 11th. I've been here for the blackout. I've been here for the hurricanes. I've been here for like every natural disaster we had. But the pandemic was something different because it affected so many people, but also it was affecting my colleagues and my friends. So when these phone calls were getting, when I was getting these phone calls from my friends talking about, they lost their jobs, and they were painting, and shows were getting canceled, the art fairs were getting canceled. That's when I realized, now's not a time to go and buy some fancy watch. Let me go and help out my friends. So I basically went on Instagram and say, hey, my name is Guy Stanley Philoche. I'm an artist in New York City. New York's been really good to me, and I'm looking to buy as much artwork as possible. The funny thing about all that, I didn't expect it to go viral whatsoever, and my budget was only like $20,000, right? So fast forward $250,000 later, over 400 pieces of art. I collect this. I have this massive collection called the Philoche collection, and to this day, I still keep buying art. I have behind me, you can see my walls. I live in a museum. I have 2 storage units filled with art, and every 6 or 7 months, I just constantly rotate my collection.
That's fascinating. Look at you. I'm so inspired by your story. You are truly so passionate about what you do that everything around you involves art from
Yes.
every aspect of your existence, and that's what makes you such an expert and so good at your craft. But now we're almost out of time. We just have about a minute left. But my final question for you is, what advice would you give to young artists? Somebody's just starting out. I know that you said you wouldn't wish this career on your worst enemy, but for those looking to make a positive impact through their art, what advice do you have?
Just be patient. Be patient. Your time will come. One thing people need to understand as artists, we are always ahead of the curve. We are, as a creative, we're always 3 or 4 steps ahead of people, and it takes a while for people to catch up with us, So as a young artist, I would just say, be patient, and your time will come. It just takes a while for people to catch up to us.
That's great advice. Dan, do you have any closing questions?
I'm just so excited and so enthralled that you came here today. So thank you so much for being
Dan
here.
is literally speechless. He just
I am.
sat this one out and just listened on the sidelines because he was loving what you were
Well,
saying.
you answered a couple of my questions earlier. So
Well,
that was
listen,
it.
if you guys are ever in LA or in New York, please stop by and check out some of my shows that have up and coming and everything like that as well too. So,
Oh, absolutely. We're going to be your cheerleaders. Thank you so much for coming on. I truly
oh,
appreciate your
no,
time.
thank you for having me. And and just remember, never stop dreaming big.
Dream big, baby. Dream big. All the way up. That was our Discover Your Potential segment, sponsored by Body Align. Do check out the very talented Guy Stanley Philoche on Instagram. You can head directly on the gram and go directly to his handle at Guy Stanley Philoche and stay up to date with all of his latest works and galleries. And of course, see more of Dan by heading directly to discoveryourpotentialshow.com or Dan_Gilman on the gram. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeart Radio. We'll be right back after this.
A Moment of Zen is brought to you by Your Home TV with Kathy Ireland and their channel partners. Head to yourhometv.com for free, family-friendly programming, streaming 24/7.
Check out Firehouse Kitchen. Firefighter Ray combines firefighter lifestyle and fine cuisine. Join him as he travels the country searching for the finest chefs among our bravest heroes. Check out firehouse.kitchentv.com and catch every episode on yourhometv.com. These cooks save lives.
Tune in to A Moment of Zen, Saturday nights from 9 to 10 p.m. on 710 WOR, the voice of New York.
A Moment of Zen is brought to you by CO2 Lift. As we age, our skin loses moisture and elasticity, causing wrinkled skin. You can reverse this aging process with CO2 Lift. CO2 Lift utilizes the powerful benefits of carbon dioxide to lift, tighten, and regenerate your skin. This simple, painless at-home carboxytherapy treatment is scientifically proven to reverse the aging process. You will see reduction in wrinkles, increase in luminosity, and improve pigmentation, sagging, skin tone, and radiance. For more information or to order CO2 Lift, go to CO2Lift.com.
Welcome back, beautiful tri-state area. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeart Radio. I'm your host, Zen Sams. Up next in our Going Deep segment brought to you by CO2 Lift, we're featuring Dr. Doris Day. She's a trend-setting leading dermatologist right here in New York City. She specializes in laser cosmetic and surgical dermatology and is a clinical associate professor of dermatology at Langone Medical Center. She was most recently named by Newsweek as the top #3 cosmetic dermatologist in the U.S. She is author of 4 books and host of her award-winning dermatology show on Doctor Radio on Sirius XM. This year, skincare doesn't solely focus on addressing the signs of aging. It's going to try to make cells behave younger. And exosomes are at the heart of it all. They're a kind of regenerative ingredient and are, in fact, a stem cell secretion, but they're also a buzzword on their own. Exosome injections are the next generation of in-office treatments for making skin act younger. They're extracted from living cells, namely stem cells, and their components, which are peptides, amino acids, and lipids, are supposed to signal skin cells to communicate, regenerate, and repair. Here to break it all down for us is the good doctor, Dr. Doris Day, chatting how exosomes are redefining skincare, how carbon dioxide therapy can promote hair rejuvenation, its latest applications and use cases. Welcoming now to the show is the incredible Dr. Doris Day. Welcome to the show, Stunner.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, and thanks for that beautiful introduction. I appreciate it.
So excited to have you on. All right, well, let's dive right in. This is exactly what you love talking about. You have your very own show that focuses exactly on this. Congratulations on being named the #3 top cosmetic dermatologist in the US by Newsweek. That is a major accolade. How does this recognition reflect your commitment to your patients and the field of dermatology?
Well, it's always an honor to be recognized. I kind of wish all of those things would go away because I think there's so many great doctors out there. And I love being a doctor. I think it's an honor and a privilege. I come from a family of doctors, and I think it's really lifelong learning. And I hope that reflects my commitment to it, but I would do it the same, even without them saying so. So I really, I think longevity is something that we need to focus on, and longevity beauty is a reflection of our general health and well-being. So as a dermatologist, I focus on the skin because people are connected to it. I know that appearance has value, and when you do treatments or don't do treatments, whatever you project in the world, you're communicating something about yourself. So I want to help people understand not just how to look better, but actually how to be better and to make those connections, because I see the difference when somebody comes in and they get some information or a treatment, and then they go out and they make better life decisions because of it. They quit smoking, they eat better, they change their relationships. All of that is because their sense of confidence is better. And so the skin communicates so much, and the hair. So I try to put it all together, but I love what I do, and I love learning, and I love sharing what I know.
You do such a good job at it, and you have created such a nice roadmap to balance all of your knowledge and combine it with all these incredible, combo therapies that you often resort to. Now, let's chat exosomes in skincare. Could you explain what exosomes are and how they're redefining the skincare industry?
Yeah, in a simple word, exosomes are delivery messengers. So an exosome is something that's an extracellular vesicle. It's something made by a cell. So a cell has information it wants to communicate to other cells. So it packages that information into a vesicle, sends it out of the cell, and then it goes along and gets delivered to where it wants. Once it delivers that message, it's gone. So think of it as mailing a letter in an envelope. The exosome is the envelope. It's the content of the letter that makes that information powerful or potentially dangerous. So an exosome in and of itself isn't good or bad. It's just a delivery mechanism. It's what the payload of that vesicle is. So it could be cancer information, things that are harmful. And that's why the FDA has a lot of questions about exosomes and limits its use. So a lot of work that's being done with exosomes has to be done super carefully, both in what they're actually calling exosomes and how they're using them. And the FDA definitely doesn't want us to do certain things with them.
I'm so glad you brought it up because that's what's the worst part, right? Exosomes
Yeah,
can also contain, to your point, things we don't want, this,
absolutely.
such as the stem cell donor's DNA, and the lack of safety data and FDA approval are what make exosomes in serums and creams such a contentious trend. For example, a 2022 study published in the journal Stem Cells International suggested that exosomes taken from cancer cells can fuel tumor growth,
Absolutely.
which is why screening the health of donors is incredibly important. So thank you for bringing that up. Now let's move on to carbon dioxide therapy for vulva, vaginal rejuvenation. You've spoken in the past regarding the importance of sexual wellness for women. How is CO2 lift playing a role in addressing these issues?
Yeah, I talk a lot. I give a lot of advice to my female patients. I think that women having regular orgasms is really important for our health and well-being, and it's so underrated. I have some women who are either widows or divorced, or they're a little bit older. When I talk to them about vibrators, they all giggle, and then sometimes when they go and they actually listen, they come back and you can see they look more radiant. It's incredible. But the estrogen depletion that happens over time can cause dryness, change in that tissue that can lead to pain during sex, lack of desire for sex, thinning of that skin that can even cause some spotting. So what I found with the carboxy vaginal treatments is that you do a series of these treatments, and what it's doing is it's affecting the circulation, the microcirculation of that area. It improves things like urinary incontinence. It improves stress incontinence in many patients. It helps with sexual pleasure, even enhancing the pleasure that women have and the desire for them to have sex because it's not painful anymore. So all of those things go beyond that, and they can affect relationships and just how comfortable you are in the world. I haven't seen anything that does no harm, that's non-invasive, that has this level of enhancement for such a sensitive area that so many women are taught to just forget about. And I sort of want to reawaken that because I think that it is part of life and it is part of longevity, and it's really important for women. There's no age at which having a sense of confidence about sex and pleasure should end. It should be at death's door, like when you're ready to just hang it up.
Thank
Which
you
is
for saying that. You just made a lot of women feel extremely comfortable for thinking the same thing because I'm right there behind you in that sentiment. Now, moving on to more proprietary uses of carboxytherapy. So, carbon dioxide therapy for hair rejuvenation. Um, Also known as carboxytherapy, what's trending right now. It's the medical procedure that involves the therapeutic use of carbon dioxide gas for various dermatological and cosmetic purposes. Now, I understand that CO2 Lift is currently investigating the benefits of hair rejuvenation. What would your thoughts be on how this could help, considering it increases blood supply to the area applied?
Yeah, you nailed it. That's exactly what it is. When we look at what works to help grow hair, even looking at things like minoxidil, which people are taking by mouth, and I'm very cautious about that. I'm not a big fan of it. I know it's seriously trending right now, but that can cause fluid around the heart. It can cause peripheral edema, which is swelling of the legs. It's not specific to the scalp. It can grow hair on the body. And yet people are taking this because hair is very tightly bound to our self-esteem. And having thick flowing hair is an immediate note to somebody else that this person is fertile and they're youthful, even though in reality it's not that, but it's instinctual. So it's hardwired into our DNA to see hair as a very important accessory. So, but all these treatments that we're doing for hair essentially just improve blood flow and oxygen supply to the hair follicles. So adding something like carboxytherapy makes perfect sense. Again, no downtime, not burning the skin, it's not painful, and it has a lasting benefit beyond just when it's on the scalp. So in my office, I do a lot of laser treatments. I use topical peptides that I've created that can help grow hair and stimulate the follicle. And I think in combination, it works well. But if you can now add this extra step that's cost-effective, accessible, long-lasting, and safe, it's a no-brainer for me because I'm going to supplement, and not just for people who have androgenetic or the genetic patterns of hair loss, but I want it for people who have scarring hair loss. There's a huge issue of women as they approach menopause where they get fibrosis and scarring along the frontal hairline that pushes the hairline back. And once the follicle is scarred, it doesn't grow back. But what I've seen is if I could stop that or get the hair around it to wake up and grow because it's stunned, not lost, then we can grow hair. So I want to be super aggressive about this, especially when I have something that is safe and no downtime.
This is fascinating, and I love what this means for the future of CO2 lift. And you're right, the science is the science. Adequate oxygenation is essential for cellular metabolism and the health of hair follicles, and carbon dioxide enhances blood circulation when applied to the scalp, therefore improving blood flow, and that ensures that hair follicles receive that adequate supply of oxygen and nutrients, promoting a healthier environment for hair growth. I'm like your perfect student. It all just clicked and made sense to me. Now, look,
I love that.
legitimately, because I love this product. For me,
Yeah.
I've been using it on my skin. I have metal in my face from a trip and fall accident over a Con Edison wire cover in 2012. I don't do any kind of injections there because I don't know who's going to be handling me. So this non-invasive, treatment that I discovered in CO2 Lift and the vaginal, I love both these products. And just recently, I had explant surgery, and I've been using it on my open wounds. I had a natural lift done by Dr. Rankin, but total explant, and it's fantastic. I mean,
Yes.
listen, it stimulates the production of collagen, a
Right.
protein that provides structure to the skin and hair. Increased collagen contributes to the overall strength and vitality of the hair. It all kind of fits, fits the bigger pattern. I'm getting really excited about this. We have about 2 minutes left. Now let's talk about the latest applications and use cases of carboxytherapy outside of that. So carboxytherapy seems to have diverse applications. We touched a little bit on the hair, but how has carboxytherapy evolved over the years? And what combo therapies involving CO2 lift are you most excited about?
Yeah, that's perfect because that's exactly where I was going. The two things that they're studying with it, and well, there's many things, but one of the things I'm really excited about because it's such a common condition is diabetic ulcers. So people with diabetes have issues with circulation, and when they get an ulcer in their lower leg, those can get infected, can be very slow to heal, and they're finding that they have really incredibly accelerated wound healing in these patients, even with just a few applications. And the second that's super exciting for hair, for skin, for face, for wound healing is using it as an assisted drug delivery. So whatever you put underneath that carboxy is now going to penetrate better and more evenly, which can be good or bad, right? You have to know what you're putting underneath it because you're going to drive that in more and hold it in place. So if I'm trying to grow hair, and I use an ingredient like topical minoxidil or peptides, I know I'm going to reach the follicles better. And that's going to help that. With wound healing, if you use other wound healing agents and you put the carboxy on top, it's great for that. I combine it sometimes after doing in-office treatments as an add-on to help give them that extra glow. And one of my favorite ways to use it is for brides who are getting married or someone who has a major event, because they come in, there's no downtime. I know they're not going to react to it, but they're going to look glowy and dewy and just radiant for their big day. So there's so many different uses that go from something as simple as wanting to look better for an event to something as profound as growing hair, improving stress incontinence, healing a wound better, helping somebody get back to their activities of daily living in a more timely manner, and to have that benefit of better health and longevity.
I love it. I just got inspired. I think we're gonna coin neurocosmetics for CO2 lift, because neurocosmetics is gonna explore the mind body connection, and wearing a face mask or massaging on moisturizer has always felt relaxing, but skincare is gonna try to take that calming effect to a higher soothing level. And the upper layers of the skin contain sensory receptors called Merkel cells that we're gonna see more treatments focused on the brain skin connection and looking into how simple sensory stimulation can improve overall well-being. And voila, a new category has emerged:
I love it.
neurocosmetics.
And also, I just, my last book is called Rebooting the Biome, and it's about the microbes in the skin microbiome. And there is a gut brain skin connection. So I think it goes in lots of different directions. And that neural connection, you're so right. Now I'm inspired by this all. You are inspiring. This is fun. That connection is so powerful and so important. That's why with the vaginal component of it, where people don't want to talk about it out loud, being able to do it in my lab coat as a doctor in the office, giving the women the power to understand that, yes, how I feel, what I want to do in my life matters. Caring about your hair and having a full head of hair matters. Wanting to have beautiful, healthy, radiant skin, that does matter. It's not frivolous, it's not vain. It really does speak to health and how you communicate in the world, both externally and to yourself, to have the confidence to go out and live and try things that you really want to try, and not be afraid of anything or feel like you're not worthy of something. The levels of that neural connection are so deep and so profound that I think it is a whole other level of conversation and study.
Yeah, we'll definitely talk about that in the next interview, but definitely neurocosmetics, it brings one example in ingredients that create cooling and warming sensations when massaged into the skin. And that's exactly what we're talking about. Whether it's the CO2 lift mask applied, subcutaneously for 45 minutes as a monotherapy, or inserted vaginally, that's the cooling sensation we're talking about between having these cosmetics and the neuroscience behind it. So we just discovered a whole new concept
Love
here,
it.
Dr. Day. I love it too. We are out of time. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks
We
for
can
having me.
talk for hours. You are incredible and so easy, and you explain things in such a great way. Of course, you're a leader in your field.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
That was our Going Deep segment, brought to you by CO2 Lift. That was the incredible Doris Day. You can head directly to her website at dorisdaymd.com, or check her out on the gram at Dr. Doris Day. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeart Radio. We'll be right back after this.
A Moment of Zen is brought to you by Your Home TV with Kathy Ireland and their channel partners. Head to yourhometv.com for free, family-friendly programming, streaming 24/7.
Gogo Bethke, the social media queen of real estate, teaches you the secrets to success through her own journey. From immigrant to entrepreneur, watch how she paved her way to 1.8 billion in sales. Watch Gogopreneur on yourhometv.com.
Tune in to A Moment of Zen, Saturday nights from 9 to 10 p.m. on 710 WOR, the voice of New York.
Welcome back, beautiful tri-state area. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeart Radio. I'm your host, Zen Sams. Up in just a few, we have the Scandals segment, brought to you by Your Home TV and Kathy Ireland Worldwide. Today, we're featuring Imran Ansari of Idala Bertuna Kamins, otherwise known as ABK Law, right here in the heart of New York City. He's also a regular contributor and legal analyst on Law and Crime and Court TV. Today, we're chatting about Alec Baldwin and Sofia Vergara and the lawsuits that surround them. Now, Alec Baldwin facing an involuntary manslaughter charged for the shooting death of arrest cinematographer Helena Hutchins, and Sofia Vergara is being sued as Griselda Blanco's family seeks to halt the Griselda series that Netflix just started promoting, but clearly that did not stop them. Now, back to Alec. In a tragic turn of events, Alec Baldwin, a grand jury, has indicted him, and if convicted, he could be looking at up to 18 months in prison. Now, that's not much, one would say. But in terms of career, that's literally career suicide. And that's another conversation. Now, the special prosecutors leading the case argued probable cause based on additional facts from their extensive investigation, pointing to Baldwin's potential criminal culpability in the incident that claimed Hylena's life and also injured the director Joel Souza. Now, this fatal incident occurred on the set of the film at the Bonanza Creek Ranch when a prop gun Alec Baldwin held discharged unexpectedly. Now, despite his repeated claims, and I mean repeated claims of not pulling the trigger, the legal aftermath has been really complex. Lawsuits were filed, criminal charges were initially made and then later dropped for him, and various allegations surfaced and then resurfaced. So much to talk about. Welcoming now to the show is my expert at hand, Imran Ansari. Welcome to the show, superstar.
Thanks for having me, Zen.
Well, can you explain the legal basis for Alec being charged with involuntary manslaughter in this case?
Sure. So this prosecution has had its ups and downs. Prosecutors brought this case originally, had an indictment, and there's also been a change of prosecutors due to some conflicts of interest. But now they come forward, Zen, with another indictment reached by a grand jury with these counts of involuntary manslaughter. And to answer your question, they are based on allegations that that gun was in Alec Baldwin's hand, the trigger was pulled, and the gun went off. And of course, there's that tragedy with Halyna Hutchins, and she has been essentially killed due to that gun. So they're connecting the dots here, connecting the dots from the shooting to Alec Baldwin. How are they doing that? Well, they had this gun tested by expert forensic analysis and ballistics analysis, and they came to the conclusion that the trigger was pulled. Now, Alec Baldwin has long stated that he did not pull the triggers in, but now they have this test in hand, which shows that there had to be at least 2 pounds exerted on that trigger of pressure in order for that gun to go off. And that's what they presented to this grand jury again. And the grand jury did indict Alec Baldwin for involuntary manslaughter. Of course, Alec Baldwin appearing in court and entering a plea of not guilty.
But how significant is the grand jury indictment in this case, and what potential legal consequences does he face if convicted? We know that it's not like he set out to murder her, but to your point, he did pull the trigger. So what does this all mean for him?
Like you said, it could be career suicide in terms of a conviction or a plea of guilty in this case. That could have ramifications, of course, for Alec Baldwin in the movie industry. But what does it mean legally? What does he face if he is convicted? Well, upwards of 18 months in prison, Zen. And, listen, a day in prison, a night in prison is a long time. Prison is not a pleasant place to be, especially if you are a Hollywood star who is used to $1 million mansions in the Hamptons or out west in LA or what have you, or New York penthouses. It's not going to be a pleasant place.
Ain't looking good for Alec. And also the film's assistant director, David Halls, and I think this is significant, who handed Baldwin the gun, reached a plea deal for negligent use of a deadly weapon, resulting in a suspended sentence and 6 months of probation. So that is already setting precedents. And then, among them, the film's armorer, and this is the craziest part, Hannah Gutierrez Reed, she faced charges of involuntary manslaughter and evidence tampering. She pleaded not guilty with her trial scheduled for this month. But eventually, what is mind-boggling to me is that this film resumed in Montana and concluded production. They went on to, button up the film, but the legal saga that's unfolding and the film industry's, the way that the film industry is grappling with the repercussions of a tragic onset incident has really left such a lasting impact. And my question to you is, given Baldwin's claims of not pulling the trigger, how might his defense team approach the case, and I mean, what challenges are they going to really encounter? Because I mean, how do you get cleared of this?
Yeah, Zen. So, of course, these are all allegations, right? And there's a presumption of innocence, and a defendant is innocent until proven guilty by the prosecution. It's going to be the prosecution's burden to prove Alec Baldwin's guilt. And they're going to do that with the evidence at hand. You asked about the defense now. The defense does have a potential to do away with this case. And let me tell you why. The gun that was tested, the gun that was used by Alec Baldwin on set, what went off, of course, unintentionally and led to this tragedy, was tested again in order to present evidence to the grand jury and get this indictment. Why is that problematic? This gun was damaged, and I believe it was damaged while it was in evidence collection by the FBI, and they had to reconstruct certain parts of this gun in order to test it and get the evidence which allowed for this indictment. The defense team here is going to attack that testing. It's not the original gun in its complete form. They had to add parts and recreate certain aspects or dynamics or mechanisms in that gun. And that's going to allow the defense to say, listen, you got this indictment by saying Alec Baldwin would have had to exert at least 2 pounds of pressure on that trigger. Alec Baldwin's defense is that I didn't pull the trigger, and you're relying on test results from a gun that's not in its original form. Who's to say that the parts that were put in there were somehow flawed or created a different sort of mechanism than the original gun?
Right.
So that's going to be one ability for the defense to attack this case. But what's interesting, Zen, we talked about Alec Baldwin going on to complete the film Rust and in honor of Helena Hutchins. But one order from the judge when he came before the judge on this indictment, entered a plea of not guilty, was that he could not do this behind the scenes of Rust piece that he was planning on doing. The judge actually instructed him that he is not to do that. So you're seeing the ramifications from the courtroom and the legal aspect into the actual production and on set.
Wow, this is so complicated, but this was such fabulous insight. I love having you on. He definitely should hire you as his lawyer because that's what you do and that's why you do it best. Now let's move on to Sofia Vergara. We have about 6 minutes left. So Sofia Vergara, she's being sued as Griselda Blanco's family was seeking to halt the Netflix show. Now they didn't succeed because it's out on Netflix, all 6 episodes. But when you look at the legal action from the family of Griselda Blanco, the infamous Colombian drug lord, right, over the mini series, for those of you that are not familiar, titled Griselda, the family representing Blanco's estate filed a lawsuit against Sofia Vergara and Netflix, alleging unauthorized use of their family's image and likeness. Now, Imran, what legal grounds do Griselda Blanco's family have for suing Sofia Vergara and Netflix, not just one, but both, over this miniseries?
Well, if they are able to establish, right, and it's mainly the son, which is his name is Michael Corleone Blanco, who is alleging that he was meeting with Netflix people. He had copious amounts of notes, information in order to document his mother's life, document some of the things that occurred. And he is alleging that that material, those stories, that content made its way into this Netflix production. And that's why he's saying that Netflix should be liable to him in order to, for providing compensation. He said he wasn't compensated. He said the material and certain aspects that he knew and no one else did. So he's saying there's no other source for this information but himself. He should have been given some credit, basically, to put it in the most simplest terms, but he didn't get that. And that's why he's going to court now. He's saying that, this information was misappropriated. It wasn't given the proper credit. He wasn't compensated for it. And you got to think that Michael Corleone Blanco may have had his own aspirations to get his mother's story to the screen. And that's why he was meeting with producers, directors,
Right.
etc. And now he's saying he wasn't given that opportunity. He wasn't given that sort of maybe creative control he wanted, or just control over that information. And that's why he's suing. Of course, Netflix and the individuals behind this production, including Sofia Vergara, are likely going to say, no, that's not the case. There's
It's
going to
public
be certain-
knowledge. They're going to
Yeah.
argue that 90% of the miniseries was based on public knowledge. I watched it. And yes, I do agree. This happens all the time in Hollywood. I know because my husband is the CEO of Romulus Entertainment, and we see this happen time and time again. But to your point, the son, now the only surviving son, is claiming that he provided interviews specifically for
Yeah.
a potential production of his family's story. And I guess he may have provided interviews directly to Netflix at some point
Right.
in time. And now he's accusing Netflix of incorporating, like you said, these specific materials into the show without proper compensation. And I think that any judge would look at that, and misuse of likeness is a real thing in Hollywood. So
Absolutely.
the lawsuit
Yeah.
was seeking to block the release of the series, which got released January 25th, and the Blanco children urgently pursuing a court injunction. Now, in cases involving
Yeah.
unauthorized use of likeness, how do courts typically assess claims and determine compensation?
Well, they're going to take a step back, right? And they're going to look at the background behind the contact between the individual who is saying that their likeness was used or their materials misappropriated into a production or a film, TV show, what have you, without proper compensation or without permission. And they're going to look at the interactions between the parties that led up to this. Was there a writing, a contract of some sorts that was in play? Was there an agreement, at least in principle, that seems to have been disregarded? And they're going to look at things like that. I know that the defense for Netflix and the production are sort of making this into a copyright case. And if it's a copyright case, that brings it to a whole other level. It's going to be looking at federal copyright law. And I think I believe this action was brought in state court in Florida. Now the lawyers for Netflix are looking to bring it to federal court, saying it's a copyright case. There's going to be a lot of moving parts here, but it's going to be up to the plaintiff, right, Michael Corleone Blanco and the family, to really prove that there was this information, that they were the exclusive holders of this information. It wasn't public knowledge, right? Because if it's a public figure, then you have less control over the likeness, the story, the content. And if a court determines that Blanco, because although Blanco was a public figure, her story was out there, then it's going to be more difficult for Michael Corleone Blanco and the family to prove their case that it was an exclusive realm of knowledge, information that was misappropriated by Netflix without compensation or permission. So I think that's how the case is going to play out here. And really that interaction, which is going to be gleaned most likely through discovery if Netflix isn't successful on a motion to dismiss or things like that, are really going to be telling to see if there was an intent to compensate the Blanco family, an intent to include them in the production, and that they were looking for that, and that Netflix disregarded that. That's going to be the real key question. Of course, other sort of specifics under the law, but that when you boil it down to the most simple aspects, that's going to be the issue.
Amazing insight, always. I hope that they have paper trail. I hope that they have email. I hope that they have correspondence, giving this information to Netflix, or some kind of ability to prove, to your point, that this is not something that could have been pulled off the internet, researched, Googled. And that's really going to be the determining factor here. So it's important to cross all your T's, dot all your I's, especially when it comes to making a movie and giving information, proprietary information, to those producers. Thank you so much for coming on, Imran. It's always so insightful having you. And of course, I know that we're going to talk about Young Thug next week. So brace yourselves, because Imran has all the latest scoop.
Thanks for having me, Zen.
Yeah. In the midst of this legal battle, Sophia is doing major press discussing her transformative role as the cocaine godmother. No easy feat, let me tell you, portraying Griselda. That was a very complex figure driven by a fierce commitment to protect her family. That encompasses a ton of range of emotions. That was our Scandals segment, brought to you by Your Home TV and their channel partners, Kathy Ireland Worldwide. That was the incredible Imran Ansari, partner at Idala Bertuna Kamens, and he's also a regular contributor and legal analyst on Law and Crime and Court TV. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeart Radio. We'll be right back after this.
A Moment of Zen is brought to you by Once Upon a Coconut, 100% pure coconut water. Imagine a drink that's nutrient-rich, powerfully refreshing, naturally sweet with no added sugars, not from concentrate, zero additives, low in calories, absolutely no artificial flavors, and is so tasty that it will become your new favorite beverage. Enter Once Upon a Coconut, the absolute best tasting coconut water you will ever try. Available in 4 refreshing flavors: pure, chocolate, pineapple, and sparkling with energy. Do your taste buds a favor and pick up some today at onceuponacoconut.com.
Welcome back. This is Zen Sam's, your favorite iHeart Radio host, right here from 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeart Radio. We're here today to talk about charity, to talk about why it's important to give back, talking about not only just mental health, but companies that are socially active, being able to take everything that you have on a platform as an influencer and making sure that you give back in some capacity. So let's get your thoughts on why is charity work so important to you?
It's so important, especially when you've been given the privilege of a platform.
Yeah.
In my opinion, if you do get the ability to build a community or build a platform, it is very important to give back. It shouldn't be a self-fulfilling prophecy. It should be a self-fulfilling prophecy for other people. So being able to focus on mental health, taking my own personal mental health, sharing my story, and then hoping to inspire, impact, and raise awareness and funds for those in the mental health community is massively important to me.
If you can give our audience a little bit of insight as to what coconut water means to you, separate of the brand, and why you use it, proprietary, health level, all kinds of stuff.
I love this question because I'm huge on replenishing the body, the mind, and the soul. So I do a lot of recovery work, and it ranges from the cold plunge to the sauna, even down to what water I drink. So coconut water, like you said, is just an amazing way to get that hydration in quickly. Having all of these extra elements to it, it kind of gives you a boost up from drinking just regular water. So it's something that I add in addition to my water intake, in addition to everything else that I'm doing to recover my body. It's just a nice element to provide those nutrients to the body quick so that I can recover better, faster, so that I can go back to training quicker and stronger.
Why do you love drinking coconut water? Is there a health benefit to you? Do you just love the taste? Give me a little bit of insight.
Well, I mean, yes, to speak about that, John is one of these guys who kind of exemplifies the American dream, because everything that he builds, he scales even bigger so that there is an ability for him to give back to the community in whatever various communities he's a part of. And when you get to be around somebody like that and the enormity of the charity that they're able to contribute, it basically rises all ships, like a rising tide rises all ships.
Yeah.
The reason why I like coconut water is not only that it's a diuretic, but it's healthy for you. And I also don't. I beat obesity. So
wow.
Yeah, it's not something
you
I
beat
talk.
obesity?
I did. Yeah, I was
was
pushing 320 pounds about 17 years ago, and I was very unhealthy. My Aunt Tina died of morbid obesity, and it really scared me. And so my whole family kind of changed the direction of health, and my mother and I both went on a fitness journey, and now it's just something that's regularly incorporated into my life. And so companies like Once Upon a Coconut and First Form and stuff that are actively out there creating products that also not only help the philanthropic, biosphere, but the people that engage with the product are actually getting something that's not poisoning them.
A Moment of Zen is brought to you by Your Home TV with Kathy Ireland and their channel partners. Head to yourhometv.com for free, family-friendly programming, streaming 24/7.
Levi Riggs on Your Home TV. Check out Harvesting Hits. Country singer and farmer Levi Riggs combines life on the farm with life on the road. Get ready for stories of perseverance, passion, and the power of pursuing your dreams against all odds. Check out Levi at leviriggs.com.
Tune in to A Moment of Zen, Saturday nights from 9 to 10 p.m. on 710 WOR, the voice of New York.
Well, that's a wrap, my dear friends. Remember to join me right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, every Saturday night from 9 to 10 p.m. Or you could head to 710WOR.iHeart.com/A Moment of Zen. Also remember that we're live on Traverse TV Sundays at 1 p.m. Eastern, YouTube Sundays at 2 p.m. Eastern, and all episodes of A Moment of Zen are available on Kathy Ireland's Your Home TV streaming platform. You could head directly to mox.yourhometv.com. Thank you for listening to us. It's been an absolute pleasure being your host. Thanks again to all of our sponsors that continue to make this show possible. And remember that happiness is the only thing that multiplies when you share it. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeart Radio. We'll be back next week.